On making sure they couldn't intercept the ball, which clearly didn't work early. But I didn't think it was. I thought there was a real lesson in some of our players who have played a fair bit of VFL footy, our forwards who led into really good VFL spots and got intercepted by AFL elite defenders. So, that was more. I think that was probably as much Geelong's good play as our poor play. But I've touched on it before. We have a real challenge at the moment with our inside 50 connection when we're, two of our key forwards were taken in the mid-season draft. So, there hasn't been a hell of a lot of time to be able to work on that connection, and it's still clearly not at the level that we need it to be. But, the hardest thing is probably getting the supply, and I think we edged in front in the inside 50 count in the last quarter. So Geelong arrested that. Every time we pressed, to get within roughly 20 points, Geelong responded as good teams do. But I think overall I think we competed really well and we're beaten by a better side. I mean, the reality is they more than doubled the number of scoring shots we had. So they were probably a bit more inaccurate than they usually are, but they still transitioned the ball really well, scored, really, really efficiently, even though they didn't kick straight. So we were outplayed, but I didn't think we let ourselves down in the contest.
You alluded to him there, but Liam McMahon, how did you see his performance? Obviously only on a 6-month contract, but going a long way to earning another one.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Liam. One of the main things is that he makes the most of his opportunities. He's a beautiful set shot kick, and he keeps presenting really well. So, I think both Archer May and Liam McMahon were very good for us tonight. And Peter Wright had one of his better games.
How did Archie pull up? Was there a bit of an ankle concern there late?
Yeah, he's got an ankle sprain at a minimum. So, again, we're keeping some of these radiologists in business at the minute, so he'll go and get a scan tomorrow, and we'll see how that is. But he's pretty sore at the moment.
Molonda was subbed out of the game. Was that? How was he going after that knock that he sustained all the fall in the second quarter? Yeah,
he was very sore, but he was able to function, and he competed hard. But we felt that, while he was able to function, he was sore, so we needed to make the sub anyway. So he was the obvious candidate to us.
How did you see that incident with Shiel shoving Mark O'Connor into him? Did you think it would warrant a suspension considering the memo the clubs had received earlier in the season?
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one. I'm not sure you can get suspended for hurting your own player, but we'll see.
Isaac Hacko through the midfield in the second half. How did you see his run through there? Yeah,
we're really encouraged by that. We think Isaac is he's as good as just about there is with the ball below his knees. I think Nick Watson at Hawthorn displayed some just really good strength and ability to hold his feet and run at speed. When the ball's below his knees, and Isaac's got the same capability. So we've crash course in centre bounce work over the last 2 weeks, and we were ready to get him in there tonight. And I thought he showed some really good signs in there. And it's a win for us. I mean, we're really. I think we've got a lot to get out of the last few games. I've said that repeatedly, and that's one thing. Getting him in there. He's playing on, bodying up against Max Holmes and Bailey Smith, and he didn't look out of place, and he did some really good things. So we know what he can do forward of the ball, but to be able to develop him in the last few rounds as a centre bounce midfielder as well, it'll be a real bonus going into next year.
In your planning for the game, how conscious were you of Jeremy Cameron and the 100 goals, and maybe the Cats trying to do what they can to get him there?
Yeah, I mean, I did cross my mind that I didn't want him to kick 25 tonight, so that was concern. But I reckon they'd look for him anyway, regardless of the situation. I mean, and why wouldn't you? But, you know, the back of my mind was always, you know, you're concerned about one player for obvious reasons, and others, you know, get let off the hook. And sure enough, Shannon Neal looked like that player to start the game. So it's always the hallmark of really good sides that if you put too much work into one player, another player will get you. And you know, they've got multiple threats up there. So Cameron had Cameron moments where he was you know, unbelievable. But I thought for the most part our defence, you know, held up pretty well. And you're talking about, you know, Mason Redmond, who's a halfback flanker, you know, going back to play on Cameron for big parts of it. And yeah, we've got some challenges back there with our key defensive stocks.
How filthy were Verde and Redmond on that free kick in the last quarter? Looked a bit stiff.
Did you think it was stiff?
They were
I'm not allowed to comment, Rog, so you have to comment.
They were battling rather hard, the two of them. That would have hurt, I imagine.
Yeah, well, we all make mistakes.
Your brother, Chris, regularly mentioned is one of the hardest coaches to coach against. So how do you find the battle in the coach's box against him? Would you regard him as probably one of the hardest coaches to, you know, be up against?
Yeah, record speaks for itself. I mean, it's you know, the thing about coaching. I mean, we're going through a real coaching challenge, and I'm really enthusiastic about the challenge, although in a somewhat of a morbid way. It's not what you'd want, but I mean, this is a huge challenge for us at the moment. But I think what stands out about the Geelong Football Club is that they've always been a very strong club in the modern era, but you know, you can say, oh, they've just had great players. They've rejuvenated it year after year after year after year, and you know, you look at players like Brian Myers, Brad Close, you know, Tom Atkins, guys who come in and now I would regard as elite players in the competition who were overlooked by almost all of us. And so that speaks more to system and coaching than it does just purely to talent. And that's, you know, that all coaches love coaching great players because those great players tend to make you better coaches. But, you know, the real art of it is being able to improve players regardless of where they come from in the draft. And you know, Geelong have just found a way. So they've built something pretty special, and it's something that we aspire to emulate.
How far away are you, do you think, from that, Brad? That's something you can't really tell from the outside, I reckon. You know, that culture and that development, which seems to be big problems at Essendon. How big is that gap at the moment, do you think?
No, well, I mean, the thing is it's only really judged in the fullness of time. So you can be taking the steps forward without it being noticeable. And again, that's the thing about, I've been absolutely wrapped with the job that our assistant coaches have done this year, but I mean, I've been really reluctant to say that because there's a scoreboard and people would say, well, how can you say they've done a great job? Well, they have done a great job with the circumstances that they've been working in. And when it comes to culture, it's largely intangible because measuring culture, I mean, people really only measure it from wins and losses over time. So we're working extremely hard in that space. I'm firm in the belief that we're taking good strides forward in that area, but you won't be able to see it until it's in the rearview mirror. And it's the fullness of time's the thing that is frustrating because you want it to happen tomorrow, but the reality is it takes some time.
Amid all those challenges, how big a success this year, how big a positive has been Archie Roberts? Yeah,
he's been huge. I imagine he'd be pretty high up in the Rising Star voting. He played some really good footy, and that's pleasing. But I think that the thing that we're encouraged by even more is that he's already in his second year, he's a leader of our team, and he's extremely coachable young man, and